Hey everyone, it's the Liberal Activist here. I wanted to talk a little bit about the election. Joe Biden won. We sent out letters to 17 million infrequent Democrats that only voted in one out of every two or one out of every three elections. We really turned out the base, but folks, it was supposed to be a landslide. 17 million new voters contacted. If 1/3 of them showed up, that's 7 million new votes. And I'll tell you something, it worked. Joe Biden got more votes than any Democrat or Republican in history, in the history of this country. He now has over 75 million votes in counting. If this had just been a race for first-time voters, Joe Biden would have won 66% of that vote. 66 to 33% of the first-time voters voted for Joe Biden, which unfortunately means that everyone who voted before this election, if it was just with those people, Donald Trump would have won the election. It was the new voters that were brought in that got Joe Biden the race. But we still have to ask some important questions about what happened in this race, because Donald Trump got 71 million votes. And those 17 million new voters that we contacted, and we brought a portion of them out, a few million, I think 5 to 7 million new voters actually showed up. That was supposed to be the blue wave. That was supposed to be a landslide that would just be the knockout punch to the Republican Party, where they would not be able to recover. And remember, this was a party that said, we're going to defund Democratic cities in the middle of a pandemic when 250,000 people had died. People were losing their businesses, their jobs. It was the worst economy we had seen in like 80 years. And they wanted to cut funds to help people. Right there, that alone should have been the end of the Republican Party, because if you kick people when they're down, when they have no recourse left, and say, yeah, we're cutting the funds, when there's a record unemployment, 30 million people looking for jobs, 250,000 people dying, and now we're going to, instead of throwing you a life jacket, we're going to throw you a boulder, that was very telling about the Republican Party, and it should have turned the majority of American people against them. Instead, that 17 million that we contacted prevented a loss. We won, but it should have been a landslide. And the reason it wasn't is because somehow Donald Trump was able to attract 71 million people to vote for him. And that's something we don't understand. We didn't realize that that was happening. We didn't realize that he was getting that many new voters on board. But we got more. We got more than anyone, even more than Barack Obama ever got, because people were so motivated to get Trump out of office, and it worked. But we do have to have that conversation about how is the Republican Party even surviving when they have policies like cutting food stamps down to $16 a month. Who can survive on $16 a month? Cutting $9 billion out of homelessness prevention, not pushing for a raise in the minimum wage or creating a living wage, so that there are people who are working 40 hours a week who are still living in poverty. They haven't found solutions to these problems, and it doesn't seem like there's any point in voting Republican. It would almost be like having two companies, one that's going to increase your health benefits and your wages, and give you all the more vacation time, and another who's like, you're getting no vacation time, you're only going to get $8 an hour, and you're getting 1/4 the benefits you would have at the other company. Well, then why choose the company that's giving you less on all three counts? That's the Republican Party. They offer less on wages, they cut back on government aid, they cut back on government benefits, and then they hang out people to dry. So that's a question we have to ask. How are they even getting any votes to stay in power at all? But we won this election. And something the Republicans should be very nervous about is, if you look at the map, all the blue states, Joe Biden is about to win Arizona, second time in 72 years, I think. He's about to win Georgia, turn that blue permanent, turn that blue, and that may be a blue long term. But even if he lost those two states, and let's give the Republicans Ohio, Florida, and Iowa, because they've been going red most of the time. If the Republicans got those 5 states, Georgia and Arizona, which are going blue this time, but let's say most of the time they go red, Florida and Ohio seem to go red a little bit more than 50%. Give it to the Republicans. And give Iowa to the Republicans. If all the remaining blue states go blue, the Democrats win every time. It was only because Hillary lost Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, 3 blue states, that we lost the election. If she had held those 3 states, she would be president. And that was because she didn't get the same turnout that Obama got. There were enough people in Milwaukee and Flint and the cities in those 3 states and Philadelphia who just were not enthusiastic enough about Hillary to come out, where she lost those 3. Biden got a record turnout. But now here's the question. How did then George W. Bush win? If he didn't win Pennsylvania, Michigan, or Wisconsin, and he didn't turn any blue states red. And I looked at the map, and the answer is that back when George W. Bush ran in 2000 and 2004, the states of Colorado and Nevada were still red states. This is something nobody's talking about. Colorado and Nevada were still red states in 2000 and 2004. Now they've both gone blue for 4 elections in a row. They both went blue in 2008 under Obama. Colorado and Nevada did. And in 2012 under Obama. 2016, Hillary won them both. And now Joe Biden won them both in the 2020 election. So these are now blue states. And if we look at Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin as Hillary losing them because she didn't get that same support out, also because of the situation that happened in Flint, that we lost 3 blue states. If you keep the states that normally go blue, Republicans can't win an election. Nevada and Colorado have not been talked about because they're just kind of factored into the equation. But the reason George W. Bush was able to win without turning a single blue state red is because Colorado and Nevada were red states back then, and now they're permanently blue. So this has got to be something really scary for the Republicans because they know they can get Arizona and Georgia back if they work really hard and we slack off. But they also know the odds of them getting Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin back are very difficult if the Democrats can turn out the base in those cities. As long as we campaign there, we can keep those states blue. If we get lazy, they'll turn red. But no one's going to do that anymore. And if we get into Philadelphia, Milwaukee, and Wisconsin, those states stay blue. So now if Colorado and Nevada are also staying blue, how do the Republicans win? They could win Florida, Ohio, Arizona, and Georgia, and all the remaining red states, and they would still lose. This is the unspoken story because right now, the Trump is trying to turn Pennsylvania or trying to disqualify votes there, and it's not working. The real story here is that Nevada and Colorado have been added to the blue column permanently, and that means that the Republicans, in a year where everyone holds their own, the Democrats would win. And all you have to do is give Arizona and Georgia to Donald Trump, and look at where the electoral count would be. So that should be a sigh of relief for Democrats. But underneath, we have to figure out how Mitch McConnell won. How did Lindsey Graham win when they had such horrible records of obstruction, stopping workers from getting better pay, stopping workers from getting better benefits, stopping improving the economy by supporting a green economy with green-collar jobs, which would add another sector to the economy, along with the jobs that we